I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
Dastardly Deeds Done. Is this a Dr. Seuss book that I missed when I was a kid? On the floor of the House of Representatives, Congressman Al Green shocked the world. Take a look at this.
And still I rise, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today, Mr. Speaker, with a to whom it may concern message. To whom it may concern, ethnic cleansing in Gaza is not a joke, especially when it emanates from the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, when he has the ability to perfect what he says. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza is no joke, and the Prime Minister of Israel should be ashamed, knowing the history of his people, to stand there and allow such things to be said. Ethnic cleansing has been a crime against humanity. And I stand here today in the well to denounce what was said, to denounce what the president said, to denounce the complicity of the Prime Minister of Israel, and to remind people that Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Gaza is a threat to justice in the United States of America. I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. I also rise to say that the impeachment movement is going to be a grass-up movement, not a top-down. The people have got to move forward. The people have to demand it. And when the people demand it, it will be done. I did it before. I laid the foundation for impeachment, and it was done. Nobody knows more about it than I. And I know that it's time for us to lay the foundation again. On some issues, it is better to stand alone than not stand at all. On this issue, I stand alone, but I stand for justice. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back.
The gentleman yields. A nice touch using the gold-handled walking stick to make your points, because he's a man of the people. Dastardly Deeds Done. Is this a Dr. Seuss book that I missed when I was a kid? Or perhaps one of Dr. Seuss's patients have written this speech? I'm not sure. We'll get to the ethnic cleansing thing in a minute, because that's actually a despicable thing that he said, amongst other things. It's nothing better than a congressman from Texas lecturing Benjamin Netanyahu about the history of the Jewish people and ethnic cleansing. I'm sure that went over well. We'll get to that in a minute. But if you're feeling deja vu right now, you have every right to, because, yeah, that was Al Green this morning in 2025. But here was Al Green in that same position without the gold-handled walking stick in 2017.
This is where I stand. I will not be moved. The president must be impeached. For those who do not know, impeachment does not mean that the president will be found guilty. It simply means that the House of Representatives will bring charges against the president. It's similar to an indictment, but not quite the same thing. Once the president is impeached, then the Senate can have a trial to determine the guilt or innocence of the president, whether he is guilty or not guilty, to be more specific. But the House of Representatives has a duty that it can take up, and that is of impeachment. I stand for impeachment of the president.
There you go. 2017, certainly ahead of the curve. He eventually got his way, I suppose, when Nancy Pelosi decided, what the hell? Al's not as crazy as the next guy, when she saw that the next guy was Maxine Waters. That was Al Green in 2017, proposing to impeach Donald Trump merely weeks after he had taken the oath of office. Of course, let's not forget the Washington Post actually posted an article on their website 15 minutes after Donald Trump was sworn into office in 2017, with the headline, "The Impeachment of Donald Trump has already begun." And here's the same Al Green in 2019.
And still I rise, Madam Speaker. I rise because I love my country. And Madam Speaker, shall any man be beyond justice? This is the question posed in 1787 by George Mason at the Constitutional Convention. Shall any man be beyond justice? Madam Speaker, if this president is allowed to thwart the efforts of Congress with a legitimate impeachment inquiry, the president will not only be above the law, he will be beyond justice. We cannot allow any person to be beyond justice in this country. In the name of democracy, on behalf of the Republic, and for the sake of the many who are suffering, I will vote to impeach, and I encourage my colleagues to do so as well. No one is beyond justice in this country. I yield back the balance.
Al Green proposing impeachment for Donald Trump another time, that time in 2019. Did he quote George Mason to make his case? I don't know. Maybe it's me. I find it rather triggering that he would quote an old dead white man, slaver, by the way, to make his case. But you be you, Al Green. Of course, you can see from the picture there, this had to do with child separation, because there were children separated from their parents when their parents broke the law and intruded across our border during the Trump administration. Of course, talk about child separation. I believe over 300,000 children were lost in the system and in this country, handed over to drug dealers, drug traffickers, human smugglers, and child sex traffickers during the Biden administration. I don't remember Al Green standing in the well of the House of Representatives with his fancy little poster there showing a crying child and calling for the impeachment of Joe Biden. It's almost like Al Green has a double standard. Almost. But he's right. No one is above the law. Did anyone find out what Al Green thought about Joe Biden giving a blanket pardon to so many people for crimes that they may or may not have committed, that they hadn't even been charged with? Just to, have a bit of a force field and safety net just in case anything's discovered. Did Al Gore have a comment about that? I don't think he did. But let's get to ethnic cleansing, shall we? Because apparently that was sort of a talking point that went out to the most radical of the left, including this chick, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She did one of her walking and talking things while she was traversing the tunnel between the Cannon Office building and Capitol Hill. And she brought up ethnic cleansing as well.
And he has previewed this for some time now. Jared Kushner and Donald Trump have kind of floated this for some time. We have known that this is Trump's plan for the Gaza Strip. It is horrific. It is the definition of ethnic cleansing. It is part of the culmination of what I view to be genocide of the Palestinian people. And this is genuinely one of the most horrific humanitarian catastrophes that we've seen in modern history.
Wow. One of the most horrific humanitarian catastrophes in modern history is to clean out the Gaza area, rebuild it beautifully and wonderfully, and then move the Palestinians back into it, which, by the way, is not the definition of ethnic cleansing, I assure you. But you know what? Let's just play their game for a minute. Let's talk about it, shall we? By her definition, I think ethnic cleansing has been taking place in Western North Carolina ever since the hurricane was there, and the Biden administration just seemed fine with people having to be cleared out, not to mention Los Angeles County because of the horrific environmental policies of the Democrats in that region, and the Maui fires too, let's not forget. A whole lot of people displaced there with the government really unfeeling and frankly supportive of the displacement. But you know what? That's trite compared to history. When India and Pakistan sort of defined their borders after India wrestled themselves free of colonialism with the British Empire. There was a big fight between those two countries because there were a lot of Muslims living there. It's weird how Muslims are always wanting to break away from other countries because they just don't like to mix with the other people. They set up their own country there right around the same time Israel was set up by the way. They created a country called Pakistan. Why is it we never talk about that, by the way? We're told that Israel forming their country in land that has been identified with the Jewish people since biblical times. We're told that creating the state of Israel was offensive, horrific, and beyond the pale and shouldn't be tolerated. Yet at the same time they were doing that, Muslims over in Southeast Asia were creating a place called Pakistan that had never been there before, and created that country solely based on their ethnic and religious identity. And that place is supposed to be celebrated. Literally, what is the difference? Well, one country is Jewish people, and there's a long history of people hating Jews. That's the only difference I can come up with. That said, when Pakistan was created, there were a lot of non-Muslims, Indians and Hindus and Sikhs and other religious living in that area. And guess what? They got kicked out. They got moved. They got ethnically cleansed. Nobody really cared about that. Also, did you know that over the course of the last millennia or so, there were Jewish people living all across the Middle East, like in Iraq, in Iran, in Egypt, in Jordan. It's called the diaspora. Jews lived everywhere, and they certainly lived all over the Middle East. It's rather historic. But now look for the Jewish population in those countries today. How many Jews are living in those countries today? Where did they go? That's ethnic cleansing. But poor old AOC doesn't have much to say about that, does she? She's got a hell of a lot to say about Israel and the Middle East, because she's been told by her buddy Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib what side she's supposed to be on, because that's where the money is, baby, when you need to go fundraising. She's come a long way, though. This is AOC, the same AOC, in simpler, more innocent times, when she was running for Congress the first time. And she was asked specifically about the Palestinian issue.
But I am, of course, the dynamic there in terms of geopolitics and the war in the Middle East is very different than people expressing their First Amendment right to protest.
Well, yes, but I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is just an increasing crisis of humanitarian condition. And that to me is just where I tend to come from on this issue.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
Oh, I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
No, you're really not. At least back then, you didn't pretend to be. Well, you tried to pretend to be. And then when you were asked to follow up, which rarely happens with you, you had to admit that you're not even close to being an expert on geopolitics in that region or with that topic. But that's not stopping you today, is it? Ethnic cleansing. Listen, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot behind Trump's plan and idea. And again, it's the beginning of a discussion. Who knows where it ends up? It's a lot of things. It's not ethnic cleansing. And frankly, using that term is offensive to the sad, horrible history of ethnic cleansing on this planet. But I wouldn't expect anyone like Al Green or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to get that or even care to try. Have you seen the news from economists now forecasting a depression? You heard me, not a recession, a depression by the year 2030. Here's the deal. We got this perfect storm of Social Security and Medicare hitting a breaking point, largest generation hitting retirement in our history. We got a smaller workforce, means a smaller tax base contributing to those programs, and then a growing national debt, rising cost of living. It's a problem. So ask yourself, what are you doing right now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times. Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. It's the kind of diversity we embrace here. Diversity? It's the kind of diversity we embrace here. Birch Gold is going to help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. Get your free kit on gold and a copy of the Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. No obligation, just information. Text Larry to 989898, Larry. Text it to 989898. Do it today. Thank you, Birch Gold. Thank you very much.